saying. When you look at what the Houston Astros did before the trading deadline expired, the fact of the matter is their rotation is much, much better than the New York Yankees. And pitching, to me, wins World Series championships. I see the Bronx Bombers beating up on the hapless Baltimore Orioles. I see Gleyber Torres being treated like the second coming of Barry Bonds. I see the Orioles manager talking about how he's obliterated us. He's massacred us. So, damn it, I got tired of it and I intentionally walked them with 2 people on anyway. I ain't give a damn. I see the 13 home runs against the Orioles and then 13 home runs in 92 other games against everybody else. Yeah, you can beat up on a little guy. Hell, I could be. Listen, it ain't tough to be the tallest dude in a small man's contest. It ain't that tough. And that's not to say that's what the Yankees are doing, but let's be clear. Let's be very, very clear. I'm telling you right now, when you look at it and you call it what it is, the New York Yankees, I don't care what anybody says. I can't believe I'm about to say that. The way the Mets have been looking, I'd give them a better chance to win the World Series because I believe in their pitching more than I believe in the Yankees. I don't give a damn. How many times have you seen the Yankees smacking home runs all over the place until October, and then suddenly they can't find their bats when they really, really need it, a la Game 7 in Houston in the ALCS a couple of years ago? You need pitching. You need pitching. And for some reason, Brian Cashman wasn't able to get it before the trading deadline. For some reason, it didn't happen. And I'm just not a believer. Of course, the Yankees are going to the postseason. Hell, they might go to the ALCS. They beat the Houston Astros? Hell no, I wouldn't bet my money on it.
Specialist that led us to the area of the front of the ankle that needs to be addressed, and that was kind of high ankle-ish.
I anticipate a guy who's missed 36 career games is going to miss another one here.
To me, right away, something smelled fishy.
You're hoping that this is not going to continue to be part of his football DNA, that every year, every other year, something is going to come up.
Sounds to me like Jacoby Brissett, your starting quarterback week 1.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.
ESPN Radio, Progressive Insurance, with more than 30 unique coverage options available. Progressive knows small business. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. I'm going to touch on something regarding the Rich Paul rule a little bit later on in the show, but for now I'm going to get to the calls. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Let's go to Brendan. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A. So, listen, I think you're really misinterpreting John Mara's comments here.
Okay.
All he's doing is recognizing that Eli is going to be the starter week 1, and if the Giants continue to win games, obviously you're not going to bring your backup in. So all he's really saying is, hey, I'm the owner of this team. I hope my team wins.
I disagree with you, and I think you're being entirely disingenuous. As a matter of fact, if I didn't, the only reason I'm not calling you a flat out liar is because I don't know you. Here's the reality of the situation. There's one thing to root for your team to win. There is another thing to root for a specific individual. And there's no crime in that either, because if you're going to root for somebody, why wouldn't you root for Eli Manning? Because he is class personified. Plus, he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. Plus, he's a member of the first family of the National Football League. We get all of that. But clearly, when it comes to Mr. Mara, there's an elevated level of affection that he has for Eli Manning that goes against the grain. There's a level of tolerance that he's willing to exercise for Eli in manners that he would never think of doing with other people. Eli Manning has missed the playoffs 6 times in the last 7 years. Eli Manning has missed the playoffs all but twice over the last decade. And when you take that into consideration, along with the dissipated level of skill that he's put on display and the way this franchise has struggled, there's only one franchise in the entire National Football League that would be having folks running around talking about Eli still got it, and you know what, he could, hope 2-3 years left or whatever based on what they've seen. And that's the New York Giants, and you damn well know it.
Well, here's the thing, Stephen. So the Giants showed us in their actions that they're ready to move on from Eli by drafting Daniel Jones.
Well, let me ask you this question. How many steps did it take? You got rid of Tom Coughlin. You got rid of your GM. You got rid of the coach that benched him to see what somebody else had, as a reserve. You drafted Nate Solder. You drafted Saquon Barkley. You acquired Zeitler. You got rid of OBJ, who was a bit petulant in some people's eyes or whatever. Come on now. There were plenty of things that have transpired, and it shouldn't have taken this long for them to get to that point. Don't sit here and act like, they haven't made strong concessions to appease Eli Manning because of their affection for him. You know better.
Well, Stephen, that's not even the point, though. The point
That's my point.
And the reason what you're getting on him today, or you're getting on Mara today because of the comments that he made yesterday, there isn't a single owner in the NFL that would say, hey, I hope my backup quarterback.
Are you a Giants fan?
Jones,
Are you a Giants fan? All right. How did you feel when Dave Gettleman came out and said, we think Eli's got 2, 3, maybe 3 years left in him? How did you feel about that comment?
That's not what he said. He said that he could foresee a scenario in which that is possible. Obviously, they're not going into
really?
this with the
Really? That's
intention-
what he said? So the entire media contingent out there is misquoting Gettleman about how he said he felt like Eli had 2, maybe 3 more years left in him?
That comment that he made before they drafted Daniel Jones, when you're looking back.
Hold on, wait a minute. See, I should hang up on you right now because I asked you the question because we know that Gettleman said that before the draft. You knew damn well I wasn't talking about after he drafted Daniel Jones. I was talking about what he said before. We've seen it before Daniel Jones was drafted. We've seen Eli, and we've seen him dissipate. And still in all, I asked you a direct question, and you tried to wiggle your way around that. You know good and damn well, Gettleman and all of those guys under Mara have been singing Eli's praises ad nauseum against what every aficionado out there have said about what they've seen, not just live, but on film about Eli Manning. And now you're going to sit up there, that's not what he said. When I just sit up there and I quoted you what he said. You know that, Brendan. You know that.
Right. I thought you were talking about a different quote that he made the day after the draft. It's just neither here nor there.
Okay.
The reason that I'm calling you is because of the comments that you were making to open up the show about Mara's comments.
Because I think the comments are consistent with the kind of things that he has said in the past and what others have said even before Daniel Jones got here, when we've clearly seen deterioration from Eli Manning. There's a reluctance to let go, Brendan. You got to admit that as a Giants fan. You got to admit that.
If there was such a strong reluctance to let go of Eli Manning, why would they have taken Daniel Jones with the 6th overall pick?
They know eventually he'll have to go because Father Time is undefeated. But they're hopeful that you won't even see Daniel Jones for a couple of years. That's what I'm saying. And not only that, to answer your question, because of the connection with the Mannings through Cutcliffe and those boys at Duke, because of that, this guy might not mind sitting down for a couple of years where somebody like Haskins or others would damn sure not try to go for that. One could make that argument. I don't know whether that's true or not, but one could make that argument.
Right, absolutely. And of course the Giants are hoping that Eli will play this entire season, and if Eli's the starting quarterback next year, that means that
you know what, Brendan?
really good happens this year.
I will fess up. I'm tired of listening to you. I really am. And I'll tell you this, too. You're probably the reason why the Giants can get away with this. They'll keep on losing because of fans like you. Goodbye. Let's go to Louis. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Stephen A., how are you, buddy?
I'm all right, man. Go ahead.
I was just listening to that call with Brandon about Eli, which is sort of the reason I called in. I am a tremendous fan. Where I am a fan of Eli Manning is I'm a fan of that 2004 draft class. And I'm a fan of that draft class because I am a big Ben Roethlisberger guy. And my argument with a lot of people right now with the departure of Le'Veon Bell and AB and AB's what made Ben great, and I don't see it that way. You know, Santonio Holmes was made great by Big Ben. Hines Ward had a great last few years of his career because of Big Ben. And I submit, Stephen A., that Big Ben is about to have the best season of his career, 2019.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, last year wasn't too shabby, man. He threw for over 5,100 yards, threw for 34 touchdowns, both career highs. That's number one. Number two, it's not a matter of a receiver like Antonio Brown making him great, because we know that Ben Roethlisberger is going to the Hall of Fame. He's a two-time Super Bowl champion. He's going to 3 Super Bowls. But he's also been perceived as being lower first tier or second tier. When you think about Ben Roethlisberger, you do think about Breeze, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady being on an elevated level. That's just a fact. When you look at the greatness of an Antonio Brown, there is no denying that he's helped Ben Roethlisberger just like Ben Roethlisberger has helped him. I think the question going forward about the Steelers this year is, what will the combination of Juju Smith-Schuster as your now number one wideout, along with James Washington and James Conner, do for Big Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers? Jesse James is gone. Vance McDonald is now your tight end spot. I liked him. I still love how he rolled over and ran over one of those Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football last season. But the fact of the matter is that even though these guys have proven they can play, none of them have been thrusted into elevated positions like they will be now. Juju has gone from number 2 to number 1. James Washington going from number 3 to number 2. Vance McDonald going from 2 to 1. James Conner, he carried the load to some degree last year, but he also had to miss some games because he wasn't 100% healthy. So all of these things are factors. I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers have the potential to win the AFC North. I wouldn't bet against them, but let's not act like, oh my goodness, without Le'Veon and without Antonio Brown, that it's a surefire bet that the Steelers are going to be better, because they no longer have hostages. All they have are volunteers, to coin a phrase from Mike Tomlin. It's going to take a little bit more than that for the Steelers to be successful this season.
Well, no, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that just the departure of those two players is going to elevate them. That's idiotic. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is the way that this team is going to galvanize around Ben. And don't forget Switzer. You know what I mean? Him and Ben texted back and forth during the Super Bowl last year, the kind of thing that I was thinking as I'm watching the Super Bowl, like, why can't Ben have an Edelman? Why can't Ben have an Amendola? And sure enough, during that game, Ben texted Switzer. He said, why can't we do this?
Okay. So we'll see. I mean, listen, I'm looking at the Steelers' schedule right now. That's what I'm paying attention to, because I want to keep my eyes on that. I want to pay attention to that and see what this materializes into. And let's not forget, the Steelers also got Dante Moncrief now, so we'll see what kind of contribution he's capable of making as well. We'll keep our eyes on all of that as the season progresses, no doubt about it. But as I'm looking at the Steelers' schedule here, they start off the season at New England, then against Seattle at home, Russell Wilson, then on the road against Jimmy G, porn star Jimmy. Then they got a Monday night game against Cincinnati. They got Baltimore the following week. And then after that, they're on the road right here in L.A. against the Chargers. So that's their first 6 games of the season with relatively new bodies to rely upon. We're going to find out about the Steelers then, wouldn't you say?
100%. And by the way, lest we forget that the last time the Steelers won a Super Bowl, they had the most difficult schedule in football.
Okay.
as calculated at the beginning of the season.
Well, I hope you're right.
You know, I like the fact that they have a difficult schedule like this. I think it's going to make them great. And, you know, I actually love them coming out of the gate and having to play New England in the first game.
Okay.
You know, I love that second game.
I wish it wasn't on the
Seattle.
road. I think they're allergic to prosperity in Foxborough, but that's just me. I got to go, Louis. I appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back with more of your calls in a minute. By the way, if you missed any of my opening segment, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith